Hello, and it is week 3 of United Hearthstone League, and we have an amazing match for you this week. I am Wicked Good. I am here with Bodicus, and we are casting Rod Johnston from Tier 5 versus Etheria, who is representing Team Toast in this week. So, Bodicus, how you doing? Welcome back.
Doing great. Thanks so much. I'm really happy to be back. Got to cast an awesome match earlier this week and really excited about today's matchup. It looks like we have a pretty exciting couple exciting lineups here. Looks like they're really going for going for some very good lineups. So I'm excited to see how these play out.
Yeah, so we have Rod has the Druid, Hunter, and Paladin. Looks like a Spiteful Druid, an even Paladin Zixo style without the Silverhand Recruit mechanics, and then a Katharina Hunter, which looks pretty spicy. And then Etheria has brought also a Spiteful Druid, an even Paladin with the Silverhand Recruit and the Dry Gulch Jailers, and an Odd Rogue. So how does that look to match up to you?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, Ephira kind of had to bring an odd rogue based on the way her class is lined up. I don't think she could have chosen to bring like a quest rogue, so I like the choice of odd rogue there. I'm definitely not as high on the Silverhand version of Paladin, but I think kind of all versions of Paladin are super strong and are capable of winning games. I'm really excited to see Rod's Hunter in action, though. That's going to be the deck I'm looking to enjoy the most out of all these. We'll kind of see what that gets matched up against. What do you think about these lineups?
Yeah, I mean, I've struggled with trying to get the Silverhand Recruit version of the Even Paladin to work. I've played some of the Zixo list, and I really like that a lot better. Even though it's not my playstyle. Like, I would rather, just stall for 20 turns and hit people in the face. But if I'm going to have to hit people in the face, I like the Zixo version better. It just feels more consistent with not having to rely on sticking a board, especially in a world where Defile is everywhere and you're running into mirrors where you're going to have trouble sticking a board. It seems like it's a better fit. But again, with these classes that are there, it may be a little bit easier knowing that there's not really any Warlock, knowing that the worst that you could run into is maybe a Taunt Druid or a Spell Hunter. The Silverhand Recruit might work out a little better. And I guess this is probably a good time for us to just go over the rules in case you're new to the United Hearthstone League. This is week 3 of the league, which means that since every player can choose 3 classes with no ban, but those classes are not available until the next set of 3 weeks. These 3 classes are the classes that the players have left for this last rotation. So they kind of went in locked into these classes before the week started, but also knowing what their opponent's going to bring. This is kind of the point in the season where typically you would start seeing a little bit of metagaming. Unfortunately, with Toast having passed last week and Etheria stepping in to take her place for this week, being one of the badass women of Hearthstone who are going to be rotating in to fill that spot throughout the rest of the tournament. Rod doesn't really have that advantage of being able to plan for the kinds of decks that Etheria is going to bring unless he's very familiar with her outside of the tournament. That's all to say that these classes are pretty much predetermined, and they're not going to be able to pick based on what's available for the other player.
Yeah, and on the same note, Ephira actually has a pretty tough time too, in that she hasn't been part of the UHL. She's maybe not totally familiar with how kind of everything goes, so it'll be interesting to see kind of who's able to, if anybody's able to get any sort of advantage out of maybe either the inexperience of the other or the lack of knowledge on one side. So I'm interested to see how this matchup ends up going down.
Yeah, this will be fun, and this will be, I mean, you've seen a lot of different strategies over the last couple of weeks. Some people have been choosing to take more interesting decks to try to catch their opponents off guard. Some people have just been going with whatever the best meta decks are. This is a more straightforward set of decks for both players, so I guess we'll see how those line up. So we're going to give the players the go ahead to go ahead and get started, and we should be underway momentarily. So what would you start with as both of these players going into this first match?
So it's hard to tell. I'm not as familiar with queuing order so much. I've heard a lot of different theories. I'm a big fan of Hoy's approach to the queuing method, which is random but with weighted classes. So like whichever one he thinks is going to be better to queue first ends up generally queuing that. If I'm looking at the decks, I don't think you can really go wrong queuing Paladin first. It's just going to be your strongest deck, and getting a win under your belt is generally quite good. So I would probably lead on Paladin if I were either player, actually.
Yeah, so it looks like they're both going to go with the odd deck out here as we go into game. We have Etheria on the bottom with the odd rogue, and Rod on the top with the Katharina Hunter. No one drop in hand for Etheria, and nor for Rod, but I don't think that's really what Rod's looking for in this type of a Katharina Hunter. He's looking for controlling the board until he can get some of those big beasts online. You do see the Witchwood Grizzly in hand for Rod.
Yeah, and this Acidic Swamp Ooze is actually kind of a pretty big, is a big deal here. I don't really know how you go into your next turn if you're Ephira.
Yeah.
Drawing that South Sea deckhand is actually quite good here, but I like the play of the Tar Creeper, setting up to be able to get this Vicious Fledgling in. That's really what you want as much as possible, is to get your Fledgling through. Once Fledgling gets rolling, it can be really hard to keep up with that. So
yeah, and the Uzon too also denies the Hedgeclad Thug on 3, which is the biggest threat that you're worried about. This Tar Creeper gets answered right away with the Wing Blast in the trade, and passes an empty board back to Etheria, where she can drop that Fledgling if she wants to, or she can just start hitting face with the deckhand and the dagger, depending on which way she wants to go with it. She could even pair the Deadly Poison if she really wants to just get aggressive as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think on this turn you just drop Fledgling. You're on an open board. Rod just used a removal spell, so there's a reasonable chance this Fledgling is going to get to attack and hit. But as we can see with the Wing Blast here, she's going to be able to remove... has the choice to actually unleash the Hounds and remove both. But is actually looks like going to use Hunter's Mark and Grievous Bite. I kind of like this as well.
Yeah.
Just gets both minions off the board. You get to make use out of the value of the Grievous Bite hitting 2 things. So I don't hate this here.
Yeah, and then kind of an awkward turn left for Etheria, because all of the cards that she has left in her hand really want to have a board, which you kind of expect to by turn 5 as the odd rogue. Just decides to drop the Cobalt Scalebane on its own, just presenting enough of a threat there. Rod does have... he does have ways he can answer this. He can unleash the Hounds for 1 and Wing Blast. He could just drop this Witchwood Grizzly, which seems like a perfectly fine 3/8 on 5 to hold off some of this aggression.
Yeah, it seems relatively unlikely that Ephira is going to be able to remove this Witchwood Grizzly with just the Scalebane on board. And if Rod is able to Dire Frenzy next turn, the Witchwood Grizzly, he's going to be drawing some gigantic top minions, which generally is going to give Odd Rogue a hard time in the matchup.
Yeah, and this is an interesting play. So running the Cobalt Scalebane and the Deadly Poison Dagger in, and using that to pump up the Henchclan Thug, which just came into hand. All of a sudden, this board is gone from not unassuming to very threatening.
Yeah, so Rod has a couple choices here. He can just full clear with the Unleash the Hounds and Wing Blast fairly easily. It's pretty tempting to unleash, coin a Dire Frenzy here on one of them so that you can be drawing 1 mana 4/4s with charge, but I think you'd rather just save your Dire Frenzy for later, get this in, and then be able to coin out a Lich King next turn, which, assuming there's no Vilespine Slayer, could actually end up doing a ton of work here.
Yeah, and Fireflies actually could be good with the Fungalmancer. Play the Firefly and the Flame Elemental and pump them all up. Looks like that's exactly the play that Etheria is going for. Again, just taking nothing and presenting another threatening board, making Rod answer it. Deathstalker Rexar into hand for Rod. But again, like as you said, that Lich King is coming down.
So interesting choice here, actually not swinging with the weapon. I understand that a lot of times this weapon can be used for removal purposes, but I really like you really want to be swinging with your weapon almost every single turn, and obviously this is a great pickup with the Valve Spine Slayer. You get to push a bunch of damage, but I really like just kind of swinging with your dagger almost every turn, because there's a good chance you're going to be redaggering the next turn and swinging again.
Yep. So play dead into hand for Rod with nothing on board. Do you ever Army of the Dead here?
I mean, Deathstalker Rexar is not going to do a whole lot other than allow you to use the hero power right away. It gets rid of a Fungalmancer and doesn't look pretty, but the Army of the Dead has a pretty good shot, I think, of getting a Death Rattle minion, and then you can play dead right away. I think that's just the play here.
Or you just pull a Charged Devilsaur or a King Crush, which is exactly what happened. Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's a big boy.
That is a board. Holy cow.
Wow, what a turn of events here.
Whoa.
Welcome to UHL, Ephira.
Or Jurassic World, whichever you prefer, but this is...
so that Army of the Dead turned out pretty good there, I'd say.
I guess so. It seems okay. And I mean, she pretty much has to use this Leroy just to get the 312 out of the way now.
Yeah, I actually don't see a way she has back into this game, because I believe Rod even has another Charged Devilsaur that the Silver Vanguard can pull out next turn.
Yeah, it's going to... I mean, it's going to pull out an 8-drop. You've already played the Lich King. You've already... Well, it's either going to pull the other Charged Devilsaur or it'll pull Katharina Winterwisp, which is basically the same thing. And there goes the... and there comes the concede for Etheria. So Rod goes up to 1-0. Wow, that was fast. And that was faster than I think we would have expected the Hunter to go. I mean, the Odd Rogue is supposed to go fast, but the Katharina Hunter usually tries to take his time and delay a little bit long, especially if you get Rexar on board. But that Army of the Dead flipped things in a real hurry.
Yeah, I think really what it was is that Ephira just had the removal spells that he needed at the beginning of the game, and Ephira just wasn't able to get that board. Generally, Odd Rogue gets really out of hand when you have a weapon into powerful 3-drop is really how Odd Rogue does so well. But as we saw with Rod, he had the Ooze for the weapon on turn 2 into removal spells for those powerful 3-drops that he was worried about, and then was kind of just able to take over the game from there. It was looking a little scary before he had the Army of the Damned, but really it's that Ephira wasn't able to get that rolling head start in the early game, wasn't able to dominate the early game, so Rod could stabilize with his powerful late game plays.
Yeah, so Rod will be up with his Hunter, and then we will go into the next match in just a second, but we're going to take a minute just to remind you that United Hearthstone League is supported by Patreon. There are costs involved in all the infrastructure and all the different things that we do in terms of giveaways and everything else. That a lot of the players and the casters and everyone else involved is donating their time, but there are still things that do cost money, and you can help make United Hearthstone League even better. We've taken a big jump even just from season 1 to season 2, and we want to make things better for the rest of the season and for seasons going forward. So you can make sure to go to patreon.com/UnitedHSLeague. You can see where all the patron levels are, and make sure that you donate. Zeroshio is our primary patron right now, and we appreciate all the support that we've gotten from him, and we would love to see more support from you all across the viewership. So if you like what you're seeing here, then you can please do go ahead and support us, and that'll make the league even better for the rest of the time. So now that Rod's got the Hunter out of the way, what are you expecting for from the players for this next game?
I think Afira could probably just bring the rogue again. I think it has a pretty good matchup against the paladin decks for the most part, and I think it can definitely get ahead of Spiteful Druid if they don't have a ton of the early game plays. So that's probably, I'd just probably queue up the same thing, but it looks like we're gonna have a Druid mirror.
Yeah. So we see both players bringing the Spiteful Druid. The lists are fairly similar. I actually didn't see if there were any significant differences between them. And double Firefly and Spellbreaker for Rod, and Firefly and double Crypt Lord in the hand for Etheria.
Yeah, so it looks like Rod's version. I'm just checking. I think Rod has the more aggressive version that kind of tries to use a fledgling a lot of the time. Oh wait, yeah. So he's the one with the fledgling to kind of try to cheese out an early win sometimes, which I'm not a huge fan of in this deck. I know you've played a lot more Spiteful Druid than I have.
Yeah.
But I really like this more defensive version that eventually just gets out, you know, gigantic late game plays.
Yeah, and Etherea's running the Mindbreaker, which will help her more in the match against the Paladin. Not as much against the in the mirror, but this Crypt Lord is going to hold off this Vicious Fledgling for now, at least.
Yeah, you have to wonder if Afira is going to end up playing out the second Crypt Lord to kind of guarantee that a Spellbreaker is not going to let this Fledgling through even for a turn, or if she's going to get a little greedy with a Sprite here.
Yeah. There's also an argument to be throwing out the Glacial Shard, but that's probably not going to be very mana efficient. Rod also does have a Spellbreaker to be able to answer this Crypt Lord if he wants to push this damage right now.
Yeah, I kind of think you have to. I mean, it seems very clear based on the Crypt Lords that you are the more aggressive deck, especially when you have a card like Fledgling in your deck. So,
that's interesting.
Okay. Preventing the ramp, that is an interesting choice here. I mean, he doesn't have a ramp of his own, so it kind of makes sense, but I think I like just getting a Fledgling hit in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that either. I mean, granted, the one who does win is, if one player has Spiteful Summoner and the other one doesn't, and we can see no Spiteful Summoner in Rod's hand, then that can end the game very quickly, but so can Fledgling. Fledgling can just end the game right away. I mean, it takes a couple turns, but... Yeah, and then freezing out the Fledgling and just building up another board of her own Etheria. And...
Ooh, I like this a lot, too. She's very clearly playing around... Oh wait, I guess she couldn't have played an extra minion there, but I was thinking she was playing around MC Tech. Probably a very common thing to be doing in the Spiteful Mirror.
Yeah.
Really don't want to get MC Teched if you can help it.
Yeah, it can be devastating, especially if you pull something like a pumped up Crypt Lord or or the summoner target later on, and you can't really avoid it all the time. But if you can play around it, it makes sense to. Rod doesn't really have any great plays here, I don't think. He can just kind of throw a bunch of stuff down, but none of it's really going to do a whole lot other than just freeze out this 2-1.
Yeah, I actually think you probably, if this was your play, I think you would have rather played out an MC Tech here, just to have the body, especially since your opponent's going to be able to play around it for the most part. They know that, especially if you play 2, which I believe both lists are playing 2.
Yeah, it's standard.
You can just play one out kind of willy-nilly, and they're still going to play around the second one for the most part.
Yep, so...
What if...
Not really any great options for Etheria here either. I mean, you can put minions down, but it's just none of these minions are really doing a whole lot. The Crypt Lord at least will block out more of this damage, and presumably if she plays that, she'll want to trade off the 1/2 into one of these minions. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know if you even really care too much about getting one of your creatures MC Tech. I was kind of making a big deal about it a second ago, but I really just don't know that you really care about it so much with a board like this.
Yeah.
like your creatures are so medium, and by leaving creatures on the board now, this Fungalmancer gets a lot of value. I just don't know about this playing so heavily around MC Tech.
And there is something to be said about drawing it out before the Spiteful Summoner turn, even though we can see there's no Spiteful Summoner in her hand. The Malfurion will be nice for next turn, but again, not a whole lot. And the Spellbreaker will kind of clean up a little bit of this Fungalmancer damage. That's a pretty good turn right there, and get the Firefly down. Just kind of trying to build up these little boards. Somebody waiting for one of their big cards, and we can see that both players have Malfurion, and Rod also does have the Cobalt Scalebane, which he will choose to use right now and start making these little minions a little bit more threatening.
Yeah, I don't know if I like how Rod's weakening up his board here with these attacks. I think I might have considered just not attacking with minions, maybe just attacking with my face there. Because now you can just... Afira can clean up these quite easily, I think.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, the only question really is, do you care about leaving the 1/1 up? Because you could trade both of the 4/1 and the 1/2 into the Scalebane, trade the Crypt Lord into the 5/1, and then just drop Malfurion and say, "Come at me, bro."
Or even just drop Malfurion with a couple poisonous, and then trade off the Flame Elemental.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is Rog gonna do with this Fungalmancer? It doesn't have a lot of great options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Hero.
Yeah, it's a really smart play, and that also does buff up the Crypt Lord. It's still gonna die to the Fungalmancer, but so it's probably just Malfurion here for Rod too, because there's not really any of these other minions that you're gonna play are underwhelming, and you're just gonna die to the poison. So do you also go poisonous here if you're Rod, or do you take the taunt?
I mean, you have to, right? Like you can't do taunt, otherwise
they just die. Yeah,
they trade straight across.
So Furia has none of the power cards being drawn for either player, other than the Scalebane for Rod and 2 Crypt Lords for Etheria, but this is... I mean, she can run her face into one of the poison, Spellbreaker the other, and then just drop a couple of small minions, I suppose.
Yeah, both of these hands are actually super awkward, but the thing that Rod has going is he's got the UI in hand, so Afira's really going to need to draw that in a couple turns to be in this game.
Yeah, or a Spiteful Summoner for that matter, which that is a bit of a disadvantage for Rod having one of them already, because he's very likely to draw the other one when he UIs.
Death is eternal.
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting... Okay, yeah, I was expecting a Tar Creeper. Makes a lot of sense here. Prevents a lot from happening. Actually, if you were going to play the Glacial Shard, I kind of think that maybe you just Glacial Shard one of the poisonous spiders, so that you can keep both of your poisonous spiders alive, and then just hero power one of them next turn.
Yeah. So this is going to be interesting for Rod now, though, because he has the Spiteful Summoner, but he can't play the Spiteful Summoner and deal with that poisonous spider.
Yeah, I wonder what his plan is here. It feels... I don't know. It feels like maybe you just put the Druid of the Scythe in as a taunt minion and then play Spiteful Summoner. Because, I mean, then Afira has to have a silence effect, which we see that she has, but...
with 3 cards in hand, it's reasonable to think that she wouldn't. This is going to take most of that health off the taunt, but it's still going to leave it there. Now you have that Cobalt Scalebane, in addition to being able to still present that threat and be able to trade off the other minion with the face.
Okay, so she gets to set up a nice little Cobalt Scalebane here, and now Rod has to make a decision if he's going to play this UI and potentially draw his second UI and make these Spiteful Summoners dead.
Well, that Glacial Shard makes the decision a little bit easier, because at least he can freeze out the Poison Spider now. see what's in the box. And it's Tyrantus.
Oh, that's the
That'll
one
help.
you wanted.
So again, freezing out the Poison Spider, face taking out the Tar Creeper, leaving just the 5/5 to contest the Tyrantus, and keeping only 3 minions on board to be able to save off the MCT. Grand Archivist looks pretty decent. I mean, it seems like kind of the only option at this point.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like you have a lot of options. So you probably Grand Archivist, Hero Power, the 2/1, and oh, okay, or
yeah. I do like this because that maintains the most targets on board to try to keep your Poison Spider alive.
What's this one do?
Because taking out the 4/4 and the 2/1 would mean that it's more likely that the UI is going to hit the Poison Spider, which you need to take out the Tyrantus.
UI get? Ooh, and there goes the Poison Spider. Actually, not the worst target that it could have hit.
Yeah.
Much if it would have hit like the Scale Bane, it would have just been probably game over. But this does not look good for Afira here. She's pretty far behind at this point.
Yep. Trading off the rest of the minions, leaves a 12/8 and a 5/5 on board, and Etheria. I mean, she can play a Spiteful Summoner of her own, and she does still have a UI in the deck, so that's a possibility.
Yeah, now Rod's second Spiteful Summoner is going to be dead, so
yeah.
I think Kelliseth, Spiteful Summoner, and probably have to Hero Power.
Yeah.
I wonder if you're supposed to actually go for armor there. I don't know that you're gonna be able to, burst Rod down, especially since you are the more defensive version of the deck. So
yeah, but I mean, this is a lot of damage coming back. She's got a big health advantage, forcing Rod to trade at this point too. That might have actually been the right play in that case, especially if he plays one more minion, which it doesn't look like he's going to, but he's taking a lot of damage with this play by playing around the Mind Control tech. He has to, because Mind Control tech on the Tyrantus would be game over, but he's down to 13.
Yeah, I mean, now going face with that Hero Power last turn is looking quite a bit better.
Yeah.
Because now you can Fungal Mancer and Hero Power one of the 2/3s and push 6 damage.
Yeah, or maybe you even play a Druid of the Scythe and Taunt and Fungal Mancer that.
Yep, that could work too. Well, you could do all 3, right?
Yeah.
So you could actually Druid of the Scythe to push 10 damage. You could put Rod down to 3, right?
Yeah, I guess the only danger with putting the Druid of the Scythe out also is that you're going to be leaving yourself a little bit open to a Mind Control attack coming back the other way. But I mean, now Rod has to trade because he wants to go face with this 12/8, but he just dies if he doesn't deal with this board.
Yeah, real heads up play by Afira, realizing that she was pretty far behind, and now by pushing all this damage, she's actually in a position to be able to win this game.
Yeah, despite the Tyrantus coming out as Spiteful Summoner. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, this Primordial Drake's going to clean up Tyrantus, if she wants to do that. Which, given the board state, seems pretty good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, yeah, the armor up makes sense here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she can just play a Primordial Drake here, and it's really solid.
Yeah. I mean, she can even just... she doesn't even have to. She could just trade the Fungal Mancer straight up into the Tyrantus if she wants to. But yeah, it looks like she's going to take the 2 face damage, clean up this whole board with the Dragon, and keep going face with the Hero Power. And Rod's running out of time. And
Yeah, I wonder if Rod's gonna play around any charge minions. It definitely feels like he can't really tell if she's playing a card like Leroy in this version of the deck. It's obviously looked a little bit more defensive from our end, but and the second UI coming out means that Afira might actually be able to just play for fatigue at this point, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, she's 3 off lethal right now. I mean, she doesn't...
I wonder what the plan is here.
I don't think... You don't have lethal this turn, and you do want to be careful, because Mind Control Tech is a certainty right now. Because you know that he almost certainly runs 2, and Mind Control Tech pulling one of your taunts would be... It wouldn't be the end of the game, but that would make your game plan considerably worse, and doing a really great job of being cognizant of that Mind Control Tech, limiting to 3 threats a turn, and presenting a threatening board for Rod to have to clear out again. The fletchling is not a huge loss.
I don't really know what Rod does here. It almost feels like you have to, like, double Crypt Lord and Chain Gang.
Yeah. Because he can't play around Mind Control Tech anymore. Because if he does
he
that...
can trade in,
yeah,
he can trade in the
5/5.
Infestor and then make a bunch of gigantic taunts.
Yeah, so that's a decent board right there. That Spiteful Summoner is still live, I believe.
Yep, it's definitely still good to go if she wants to get it out here, and she's not really in too much worry of dying on like the crack pack. So feels like you could keep 3 threats on the board. You probably trade in Scalebane and Druid of the Scythe, and then silence the 5/6 chain, another one of the chain gangs.
Your magic shall not save you.
And then just play Spiteful Summoner. Probably get like get at least an 8/8.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a lot for him to deal with all of his real removal gone at this point. Oh, looks like she's gonna trade off the 5/6 entirely. Oh, not playing the Spiteful Summoner. Or just go face it in the game. That's a pretty good plan too.
Typical Casper now, just missing the easy lethal right there.
Yeah, and that's why they're playing the game and we're over on the other side. So that's gonna be 1-1 for the players, and with the Druid 1 for Euphoria. And we'll just take a second to remind you that we do have one more match to close out week 3 this week. We have at 10 p.m. Eastern. We have Versika versus Mike Lowe, and that will be cast by Cinder and our own Bodicus doing double duty this week.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, so...
Triple duty.
Triple duty. How triple duty?
I cast on...
Oh, just today,
Monday.
I was saying.
Oh, today, yeah.
So Bodicus will be back with you tonight for that match. That should always be something to watch. Versika's matches are always a lot of fun to watch, and Mike Lowe's been holding his own in the league as well, so that should be a fun match to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I expect it to be probably completely different than this match. I know Versika is known for his mad scientist tendencies, and I don't even know what to expect for his decks. I think he already submitted them, but I haven't looked at them yet. I'm excited to see what he'll be bringing this week.
I mean, he's going to have to do a lot to top the match that I casted earlier in this week that had 2 decks that both had Archbishop Benedictus in them. So he's got his work cut out for him.
You must have loved that.
Oh, it was a blast. I love me a good Benedictus. One of them was a Hemet Benedictus too, so that's even more fun. So we have the Druid down for Euphoria. We have the Hunter down for Rod. What are you expecting in this next match?
I mean, I keep saying it, but Paladin is just seems like it's a good thing to pull out. Maybe Euphoria goes back to Rogue, expecting Paladin to come out from Rod, but and I guess we're gonna see Rogue versus Druid.
Yep. So we're going back to the Rogue and back to the Druid for both players. The one each deck, one that each player is lost with, and double Fledgling in the hand for Rod, and he keeps both of them with the Spiteful Summoner against the Odd Rogue.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. Your weapon is really good at being able to remove stuff like this, and Ifira has the 1 mana play here, so we'll kind of see how this keep turns out for Rod.
Yeah, it seems ambitious against an odd rogue in particular. Against a lot of decks, I like it. I don't know how I feel about it against this deck in particular.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Crypt Lord is probably coming out this turn, followed by a Vicious Fledgling.
Yeah.
But we'll see how Ifira decides to try to get over this. I mean, she
Cold could answer it.
Yeah, it has a fairly easy, 1-drop Cold Blood. Just get through this Crypt Lord before it's able to get too big.
Yeah, or that Crypt Lord isn't scaring her yet because she can't see the fledglings in hand. So get that Henge Clan Thug starting to get buff, and
you have the option next turn for 3-drop Cold Blood anyway.
Yeah.
Like you can just play a Tar Creeper to block it or something. Like you have a lot of ways to get over this.
Yeah,
Crypt Lord.
Yeah, there's Ifira has like as many options as she wants to deal with this. She has the SI7 agent. She has the Cold Blood. She can even just throw a Tar Creeper down, or she really just doesn't even want to deal with it. Obviously, that's not really the Odd Rogue's MO, but she's got plenty of different options to deal with this. And yep, looks like trading in with the 1/2 and then SI for the other 2 damage, and that's a board.
Yep, that is a really scary board if you ask me, and obviously immune to MC Tech too. Like this is the type of board that gets out of hand real easily, and even the Spellbreaker doesn't do a whole lot here.
Yeah, neither does the Saronite Chain Gang though, which are the 2 cards that Rod's clearly trying to decide between.
Your magic shall not
So
save
Spellbreaker at least keeps the Henge Clan Thug from getting out of hand, but it's still a 3/3 that's gonna answer this. Ooh, and Deadly Poison too.
Yeah. I mean, this seems to me like Blink Fox, kind of see what you get, and probably a Dagger up.
Yeah, Force of Nature, not really what she wants. Maybe 2 years ago it would have been.
Okay, it looks like she's considering getting some
Yeah.
Cold Blood. Wants to push that damage. I actually like this a lot too. It's going to be pretty hard for Rod to do anything about a 5/1 with Divine Shield this turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's just going to be able to break these Saronite Chain Gangs pretty easily.
Yeah. Oh, and the Cobalt Scalebane as well. So
You have to wonder though what yeah, she's just really making sure she does not get blown out by an MC Tech here. Gets to push
Perfectly
9
fair.
damage. I like it.
Yeah. And this Spiteful Summoner is... Rod has a Spiteful Summoner in hand. He can't play it, because he'll just die.
Yep. You have to play out Saronite Chain Gang and hero power down one of these Blink Foxes.
Yeah.
Or one of these three
Yeah.
ones. He ended up choosing the Blink Fox.
They're all Blink Foxes at
Unfortunately.
the end of the day, right? I mean, the SI7 agent is just a very hairless Blink Fox.
So pretty though.
So... These 2/3s aren't necessarily such a roadblock, but the question's going to be, what does Etheria do afterward? Because the SI7 agent clears one up, the dagger takes out the other. Yeah, and this Cobalt Scalebane and another dagger up. And
Do you dagger or do you play a Flame Elemental? I think I might have liked the Flame Elemental there.
just to spread out the damage a little bit more.
Yeah, just
probably.
to spread it out a bit more. Rod now gets to play a Malfurion. And Ifira's gonna need like a silence or something to be able to get through these 1/5s.
Well, I mean, she can trade them off with what's on board. She just would prefer to preserve the...
Ooh,
Oh, wow.
that makes things big.
She could even throw a Tar Creeper on the side, too, if she wants to. Again, that's that's not going to be in line with her playing around MC Tech on every turn of this game, which is, absolutely the right way to play it. Yeah.
Yeah, I expected an attack here and a redagger. I mean, she saw pretty much Rod's entire deck last game, so I don't think she has to worry about something like a Harrison getting a couple extra cards or anything crazy like that.
Yeah, the Glacial Shard will help a little bit, but she
I think
still
he's
needs...
just dead.
Yeah,
I
no, I
see
don't...
a way
yeah.
out of this game.
Yeah, I don't... I guess 9... if he armors up, that's 11? He's still dead. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see any way out of this either. Unless he, like, somehow shuffles an 8-drop into his deck before he can play Spiteful Summoner.
And he's going to make sure that she sees it, but I think Afir is going to do some calculations.
I mean,
and
based on the way Afiri has played this game all the way, I would have a hard time seeing her missing lethal on this last play.
Unlike we did last game.
Yeah, well, that's why she's playing, right? So, all right, so that's so that is match point for Afiria with getting the win with the Rogue, and so just the even Paladin left for her. So, what is your plan as Rod? Do you keep going back to the Spiteful Druid, or do you try to win the Paladin mirror first? I mean, obviously, you have to win both, but which one gives you your best chance to win this game coming up?
I think if I'm looking at this, Rod probably expects the exact mirror, I would think.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that the Spiteful Druid matchup is supposed to be very good against Paladin, if I'm thinking correctly. So I expected this, which is we're going to see a Paladin mirror.
Yep.
I think Rod's actually going to be pretty happy when he sees the
Drygulch Jailers?
Silverhand recruit.
Yeah.
The Drygulch Jailers, because I think you're probably advantaged in that situation, but I don't know, the Drygulch Jailers if you're able to pair it with a Knife Juggler, can be pretty good in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. If you can get yourself out ahead early, then it works out. How do you feel about keeping the Knife Juggler for Afiria here?
I don't like keeping Knife Juggler usually. It's a card you would much prefer to pull out with Call to Arms. And it's honestly not a whole lot better than just hero powering again on turn 2 for the most part.
So, heavy hand for Rod. He's probably not going to want to play out. He probably will, but he's not going to be happy about playing out that Acidic Swamp Ooze on 2, or he is just going to hero power.
Yeah, I think the Ooze is just so good that I kind of like just saving it. There are, like, being able to get half of a true silver champion with the Ooze is just quite good. Afira didn't coin out a 2-drop on turn 1, so
yeah.
Okay.
I do like this coin hero power here, because both it has a chance of taking out the Silverhand recruit, which it doesn't, and then it also sets up for the Direwolf next turn.
I don't know how much I love this play here. I'm trying to think. I guess you do have the Direwolf hero power next turn, but
I mean, given the rest of her hand, though, I mean, she needs to get value off of that Direwolf if she's going to.
Yeah, and there's no way to modify this to be in your favor. You just I guess you could try to roll 2 50-50s, which is what she's going to try to do here.
I mean, you may as well, right? I mean, it doesn't work out.
You need one to go face. Ooh, not the situation you wanted.
Yeah, this Consecration, if Rod so chooses, will clean this up really nicely. Though that will give Afiria back the board. Well, actually, it won't, because he still has the Acidic Swamp Ooze coming back the other way. So that's going to clean it up.
Now, Rod seems pretty far ahead. I was going to say, Afira seems pretty far behind now. True Silver Champion will help out a little bit here, but she's looking a little weapon flooded, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. But Rod doesn't really have a way to capitalize either. I mean, he can play the Spellbreaker. I would imagine he doesn't really want to. He may kind of have to, though.
I mean, Spellbreaker is just not even that great in the matchup. I mean, you're playing it into the second charge of the True Silver, which feels really bad, but taking the turn off also feels really
it's
bad.
either way, it's not great. I mean, you do want to be able to answer something like a Blessing of Kings or you know, get a Tarim taunt out of the way for lethal or something like that, but he just needs board right now. So we are going to see the Stegodon come down.
Yep, he's going to see this and know that she is the more Silverhand Recruit version of the deck.
Yeah.
Takes the toughness boost, which makes a lot of sense considering there's a Silverhand Recruit on the board, and that's a pretty good draw there.
Yeah, Tarim's a good card.
Tarim is one of the most powerful cards of all time.
Second,
especially especially in this matchup.
Yeah. Drygulch Jailer comes into the hand for Etheria. Still, neither player found Call to Arms yet. Valenier... Yeah, so Valenier's going to clean up the other half of the Argent Commander. The 1/4 cleans up the 1/1. And then that does leave Etheria being able to hit the Valenier on either a Direwolf or a Drygulch Jailer right now, and at least make those 2-drops a little bit more beefy. Another Argent Commander out for Rod to take out this 1/3.
And one of the Spellbreakers is down, so that Valenier is likely going to get some value. I guess just kind of goes to show the power of how good weapons are, just how much value they're able to accumulate if your life total is high enough to be able to make good use out of it.
Yeah, but that Chain Gang coming into Epheria's hand right now as she's about to use the second charge of the True Silver is pretty big.
Which path to choose?
If it can hit it.
Right. Well, she can guarantee it if she wants to play out the Jailer and the Direwolf. And it does.
Ooh, that is huge.
Yeah.
And I think that looks like it completely swings the game in the opposite direction.
Yeah. That's like an Army of the Dead in the first game. Like, that's a big swing. I mean, Tarim can answer this. Or Equality Consecrate does too.
I mean, it kind of answers it. Now 2 weapon buffs are going around. One's going to go on Drygulch Jailer, which admittedly...
No, it just resummons the weapon. So it resummons the weapon once. Oh, no, because the other one kills the first one. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Got it. Oh, okay. So it's just 1 weapon buff, though.
It's 1 weapon buff currently, but now you have another weapon, which will do another weapon buff, and then when it dies, etc., etc. So even though Ephira is really far behind on life total right now, she is way far ahead in value, and like the Blessing of Kings is going to make Tarim not nearly as good. I actually kind of like her position.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's the second Spellbreaker right on time. But that's still only going to answer 1 Valenier, because there's still another one in hand, so... Or on the board,
she's so far behind. Yeah, unfortunately, she's so far behind on life total right now that it might just end up being good enough.
Yeah, she can't afford to really smash this into too many more minions. She wants to be going face with it. This Consecration isn't enough to clear off most of the board that she's worried about. She can take out the 2 Saronite Chain Gangs, but she'll still have a 4/1 left behind.
Yeah, she can attack here. It's going to go on to the Stegodon, and then King's that.
Yeah.
Hero power, and probably play the Stegodon, and...
With the 1/1.
I think you actually need Taunt. She doesn't know she needs Taunt, but now Direwolf in between the 2.
Yeah.
Hit for 5, and then...
Or
Tarim
the Avenging Wrath
the game.
Yeah, the Avenging Wrath is likely to just finish it too. That's interesting.
Well, we could have guaranteed. This is not guaranteed lethal, but
it's pretty.
It works.
Yeah, that'll do. So we are all tied up, 2-2. Okay, so...
Alright, so it's all coming down to Silverhand Recruit Paladin versus Spiteful Druid. What do you kind of think of this matchup? I know you played a bit of Spiteful Druid before the new set, and I'm assuming you played it quite a bit after.
Yeah.
How do you like this matchup?
I don't know how it... Well, I guess this is... Epheria's version is going to be the more standard list, and that does seem like it can handle the Spiteful Druid because of equality. Equality generally seems to me, at least, to be the difference maker between those decks, because you can just answer a Spiteful Summon turn, you can just answer a Crypt Lord, like all of the things that Spiteful Druid is going to try to do in order to snowball the board. You can just answer with one Equality and a Consecration or Avenging Wrath. It seems like that's one of the reasons that Paladin is still on the ladder much more than Spiteful Druid is lately.
Yeah, I guess Crypt Lord seems quite good in this matchup in general, but having the Spellbreaker is going to be quite good there for Afura.
Yeah, and the Tarim in hand to start with is good. The Acidic Swamp Ooze is fine as an initial 2-drop because you're not looking to target any weapons.
Yeah, but I guess if I'm looking at Rod's hand, he kind of has the perfect setup to be able to deal with the early game from Afura. That Direwolf was really good pickup, exactly kind of what she needed at that moment. But still, I mean, he could coin out a Crypt Lord, or he could just play some Fireflies out. Either way, I think you're in a decent position.
Yeah. So that Crypt Lord will come down. There is the equality. So, if Fury does have that available to her, I would expect the Swamp Ooze and a Hero Power just to come down this turn.
Yeah, it puts out a ton of stats. I don't think you need to attack because then Rod gets a free value trade. You could Equality next turn potentially, or just Spellbreaker depending on what happens. Yeah, I expect Ooze and a Hero Power to come out.
Yeah. I mean, there's no world in which you Equality this board.
I mean, I think that there's definitely thought to it, but I think when you think it out, then it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it looks like Rod's gonna go for make the toughness on this Crypt Lord really big.
Yeah.
Which kind of plays right into Afura's Spellbreaker.
Yeah.
But even still, you're going to silence it down to essentially a 1/6, which is still kind of a big pain for your deck to deal with.
Yeah, and he does have another one that he can play behind it next turn, or the Greedy Sprite if he wants to. The Greedy Sprite's not really doing anything for him without the Spiteful Summoner in hand anyway.
Right, so Spellbreaker comes out. I wonder if she probably ends up having to trade with these Firefly tokens.
Yeah. Or do you trade off the Crypt Lord because Fungal... Well, you don't have to worry about Fungalmancer yet, but that's going to be a concern going in the next turn.
Yeah, I feel like with Tarim in hand, you just really want to be, like, kind of taking care of their board as much as possible, because you really want the Tarim to come down and be ahead on board.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, this is kind of doing this... Rod's doing her job for her, effectively.
Yeah, Rod could have actually saved 1 damage on that Crypt Lord there. Could have been a 1/4 had he attacked the Crypt Lord into the 2/2 instead of killing the 2/2 and then the 3/3. We'll see if that comes back to affect anything.
Yeah. This is an awkward turn for Etheria, though, because it looks like it's Life You Stegadon after Hero Power, but that does not feel great.
Yeah, that's the one big problem with the Silverhand Recruit version of this deck, is just that it's generally hard to stick a bunch of Hero Power tokens. Like, if you could play Stegadon in the odd version, I think you would just play the Silverhand Recruit version all the time, but having it in this version just doesn't work out the way you want it.
Yeah, +1/+1 seems fine, given the number of one attack minions on the board. Fungalmancer is going to make those a little bit bigger, obviously.
Yeah, let's see if he plays around Tarim here. I kind of expect him to.
Yeah.
And he does, so... Rough spot for Afira here. I don't really know what her best option is. Like, you really want to save Equality Avenging Wrath for a turn coming up.
Yeah. I mean, you could just play Blessing of Kings on the 3/4 and just take out the Crypt Lord. It's not going to feel great. Or again, Greymane is still a 6/5 minion.
Yeah, I like this too. And like next turn, you could Hero Power Tarim if you want, especially if something like a Spiteful Summoner comes
right
out
off the top.
Reason.
Well, the Tarim will answer whatever comes out of here, and there's an Ultra Soar.
Yep. And I mean, your board is just gonna already be good. You can just hero power Tarim and go face, or you could trade. It kind of doesn't really matter.
And then you're set up with Equality, Avenging Wrath for whatever comes next turn if it's something big.
So.
Reporting for duty.
Yep, I like this right here.
Yep.
I think you push face. Yeah, I like pushing face here. You've already seen one of the card that I'm not thinking of and blanking on right now.
Spiteful Summoner?
Fungalmancer.
Oh, okay.
You've already seen one Fungalmancer, so like you're not super worried about getting that creature buffed.
So I
guess
this way you're making him spend a second card to get through Tarim, as opposed to just trade hero power into it and then play something else. So at least he's she's making him use this Druid of the Claw in charge and leaving it as a 4/1. She's thinking about the Avenging Wrath just to clean this up.
She's gonna. I'm guessing she's gonna wish she saved that when she sees the Lich King come out.
Well,
next
I mean,
turn
she
go
can
along
still
with the
equality trade, right? I mean, she's got 2 minions on board. She can still just equality and run one of those into it.
Yeah, I guess that works out okay. You really want to get this Blessing of Kings off. Maybe you like equality.
Oh, the Stegodon could. Yeah, she could equality and then play the Stegodon and potentially go face either with Wind Fury or with +3 attack.
Yeah, like equality hero power Stegodon, and then you can still Amani Berserker.
Yeah.
Reporting for duty.
She can push a lot of damage with this depending on what she gets offered. I didn't even see what the other two were, but +1/+1 is fine.
Now the question is, do you play this Amani Berserker into a Mind Control tech? Obviously she doesn't. She's been playing around Mind Control tech this whole thing, which is quite good.
Yeah. So again, Rod with this Army of the Dead in hand.
Army of the Dead, quite good. I'm surprised he didn't play it here.
Yeah.
It's quite good in this Spiteful deck, considering your deck is all minions.
Yeah. And I mean, it basically does the same thing that UI is going to do. It's just going to put those minions out onto the board right away.
Yeah, and does she have lethal now? 7/11?
Looks like it, yeah.
Yep, and that's going to be
That's
game.
it.
What a draw from Afira. I actually think that Rod probably needed to Army the Den and try to hope for a taunt there.
Yeah.
Really well played by Afira.
Wow.
Recognizing that the damage that she was going to deal from the Avenging Wrath was more important than trying to save it in case Rod tried to put together a board the next turn. Really well done.
Yeah, well done by both players. We'll try to get them into a call real quick. So we'll just do that, and I'll probably have to hang up on you and then get you back in with them.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we will. I'm just making sure they're both ready, because, never want to surprise somebody with, oh, surprise, you're on candid camera. Okay, so they're both ready, so we will bring them both in. So we're doing that, and here we go.
Cool. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Man.
That was something.
I knew I was in trouble, when I saw that the classes that Toast had left up for me, and she was headhunting me, and then I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this Druid deck is going to be the death of me yet again, and after I face traded for 8, I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, and we were on a call together the whole time, just talking and BSing, and I'm like, I'm going to regret that, and I regretted that, and but it was a fun series, man. It was
really close. Came down to the wire there.
Yeah, very close.
I was telling her, I was like, I had that Army of the Dead, and I didn't know what was going to give me more of I needed to secure some kind of board presence there at the end, at that last game, and I went with the freezing and going with that, and she pulled that blessing, and I'm like, damn. Or I'm like, is that lethal? And she's like, yep. And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, we were both talking about that at the end too, because like, well, that's basically a UI, except you get to play all the minions right away. And you know, I mean, you could have even gotten a Grand Archivist or a Leroy out of it, and it seemed like that might have been what you wanted to do. But I mean, it's close, and it's hard to. It's hard to think about a card like that in that deck where you're not usually playing a card like Army of the Dead. I mean, it did win you the first game. You know, maybe just throw up and hope it's going to save you again. But
it was pretty hard the first game.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, you had also already played. Now that I look back, you already had played a ton of your taunts from the Spiteful deck, so it was fairly unlikely that you were going to pull one from your top 5 cards.
Yeah, and that was what I had looked at it, and I had one Serenite Chain Gang, and I would have only gotten 1, 2, 3 out of it. So my best bet would have been the Leroy to take out one of the minions, you know, and that's why I was just like I didn't think it was as long-term viable, and it might have been the right choice, but I was trying to make sure I could come back because that deck is just, if I leave minions up, things like what just happened where she can, you know, Blessing or, you know, Fungal Mancer or whatever. I mean, not Fungal Mancer because she's even Paladin, but, you know, just buff your dudes. And so I just wanted to try to obtain some board presence. So.
Yeah. So Etheria, can you talk about like just one of the things that we noticed as we were casting the game is just how consistently you were playing every turn with mind control tech in the back of your mind. Like, and it just, I mean, it paid dividends because Rod had it in, I think in his opening hand for both the games, if I remember correctly. So yeah, absolutely the right call.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that was kind of the thing I was afraid of because I've had some unlucky pulls with it, so I really thought I have to play around it. I really have to like buff my dudes, don't make too much, and just hope that it will be enough. And I also thought that I should really be careful with my removal because I didn't have a micro project, so he was free to play, like spam the board, and then I really should take care to get most of my removals possible.
Yeah, and you did a great job with it. I mean, it's because I mean we're both looking at each one of those plays like, and I'm you know, dumb me, like, oh yeah, you could just spam all this stuff onto the board, but mind control tag, and every turn just, you know, showing an amazing amount of restraint in both of those matches.
It's funny because we were, like I said, we were talking the whole time, and we were both joking about it because I was sitting there and I'm like, crap, I can't play anything anymore because I was afraid of mind control tech too, like in that Druid game, and I'm just like, and she did a great job of just like making sure I never had enough minions to do it with, and I think that was one of the big deciding factors with those Druid games.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I really like Afir's approach to the Druid versus Druid game. There was a time where I was like, I don't know if I would have necessarily attacked there. It felt like you were in a defensive position, but you turned it into being able to really push damage and put Rod in a situation where he had to play a second UI, and then it was kind of like, well, I can just kill him because he's low, or if it really comes down to it, it's going to go to fatigue, and he's so far ahead in fatigue. I really liked how you played that game.
Yeah.
I was joking. I was like, you don't even have to kill me. Fatigue's going to kill me here in a second because I was like, I had to play that second one, right? Like I had to, because I was going to be in trouble if I didn't. Her board was so strong at that point. And so.
Yeah. So I mean, you're stepping in and this is your first time, you know, coming into League. What was your impression? You know, did you enjoy it? Was this what you were expecting? Like, how did you feel about it out now that the match is done?
I mean, it was incredibly funny because, as Rod already said, we were talking and joking all the time, and it was really a cool atmosphere, and everyone was so friendly and helpful so far, so I definitely enjoyed it. I mean, when I saw that Toast was playing in this league, then I thought, well, that's a cool thing to do. But unfortunately, the games were always so late for me because I'm in the European time zone. So she was playing like at 3 a.m. for me, and I could never watch. But I'm really happy that I could like step in and play for her now, and it's really thank you for having me.
Well, and thank you for doing it. And I mean, I think this is a great tribute, especially, beating up on Rod with the decks that she left specifically for Rod is the best tribute I think we could give her.
That's true.
I mean, she called me out at the end of the Breezy match. I mean, so this was bound to happen regardless, right? Someone was going to kick my ass, and I'm glad it happened like that because it was at least a fun series, and I had a blast playing it. So
yeah, and right up to the end. So
yeah.
Bodicus, anything else you wanted to ask, or?
No, just congrats on the win. Well deserved. I actually guess
Thank you.
I was going to ask kind of how you came up with your lineup, because I was assuming that you ended up bringing Odd Rogue because you saw the Paladin from Rod. But how did you kind of come up with your deck selection?
Actually, that is maybe a bit of a disappointing answer because I just brought the list that I was familiar with, that I was playing on ladder, because I really had the feeling that that I'm better with the decks that I'm used to play, even if it's not the perfect matchup. But as it happened, it was fitting quite well. So not much of a tactical thinking behind, I'm afraid.
Well, it worked out. I think it really showed that you knew how to play the decks quite well, and I think that's a good way to go for a lot of people that maybe don't have experience with every single deck, and just play what you know. You're going to be able to play it well, and you obviously showed that in this match.
Yeah, her decks didn't. I mean, my decks that I had left didn't give me a lot of options because I knew she was going to have 2 aggressive decks, most likely, and a druid, right? And I thought there was going to be the spiteful druid. So I was like, I don't really have very many aggro tech. I mean, you can't. Druid isn't great against aggro. I mean, and then the Paladin obviously was what the Paladin was. And so it was just, I mean, I'm glad that Hunter game worked out so well because that deck is hysterical and I love playing it. So that was the highlight for me. We were sitting there, and I'm like, I'm sorry about this, and I hit that play dead, and then I'm like, because that deck just comes out of nowhere, right? So
yeah, that was incredibly funny. I was thinking like, oh my god, should I trade my Leroy? But I don't think I will win if I do that anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, the Army of Dead pulling out all of Jurassic Park all at once was.
That's true.
I mean, you could have played Togwaggle Druid, Rod.
I could have, and that would have been even worse. I mean, the thing with Togwaggle, right, is, and as anyone who knows, who's listened to Tier 5 multiple times, I am a big fan of Togwaggle because he is the one of the mascots of Tier 5. It's just the ability to survive long enough to do anything against Paladin or Rogue is just... my whole hope was I could get a 12-12 out quickly in one of those games and start pounding face, but the only time I did that was in the mirror matchup, and she had the ability to counter me with her own big minions. So it didn't work out as well as I hoped, but it was like I said, it was a blast, and we're glad we got to honor toast like this. So
yeah, I mean, it was an amazing match all the way through. So well played to both of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and so. I think we will let you both go. Thank you both for coming on. And so Bodicus, any last words you wanna leave for the folks?
Nope. Just make sure you guys, if you can, tune in tonight. There's going to be another match casted by me and Cinder, and I'm really looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be Versika versus Mike Lowe, and who knows what could happen. Anything could happen.
Insanity ensues.
Bring your popcorn. All right, so on behalf of the players of Bodicus, I'm Wicked Good. Thank you as always for coming out, and be good to each other.
See ya.